Hello, I'm attorney Joseph Niven, and I'm here to talk to you about what do I do if the other parent is alienating the child or children from me. So, for purposes of this video, I will call parents that try to alienate children from the other parent targeting parents. I will call the parents from whom the children are being alienated targeted parents. First of all, what is parental alienation? Parental alienation can take many forms. One form is false allegations of child abuse or neglect. Another form is acting scared or hysterical during visitation exchanges. Another form is speaking negatively of the targeted parent to the children. Another form is putting the other parent in a no-win situation. Like, for example, a targeting parent might ask a child to tell the targeted parent, "I don't want you at my soccer game." Then, if the targeted parent shows up at the soccer game, then the targeting parent will say, "You see, he or she doesn't care about what you want." If the other parent does not show up, the targeting parent might say, "Oh, well, nothing could keep me from going to one of your soccer games." Parental alienation is something that goes beyond personality conflicts. So let's say, for example, that two parents have different parenting styles and the child responds better to one parent. Sometimes the other parent might accuse the other one of parental alienation. However, that alone is not a form of parental alienation. For example, let's say that we have a 12-year-old boy that likes to hang out with a girl, and one parent says, "You know what? It seems harmless enough, so I'll let them hang out together." And the other parent says, "No, no, 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 no. It's not appropriate for the boy to be hanging out alone with the girl. He's only 12 years old." Of course, the boy is going to favor the parent that doesn't disapprove of it so much. However, that alone is not parental alienation. That is simply a case where there are two different parenting styles. However, if that situation gets worse and the less strict parent starts scheming with the child about, let's say, creating a favorable situation in a divorce proceeding for the less strict parent, then that could potentially transform into a parental alienation situation. In general, parental alienation applies to cases where the child or children outright reject the other parent. So it's not a situation where, let's say, we have a teenager that says, "You know what? I don't want to go and see my dad on Friday night because I want to go and see a movie with my friends." We're talking about a situation where the child or children absolutely do not want anything to do with the other parent, and it's for reasons that are absurd. So, what happens if a parental alienation case goes to court? Almost always, the court will order what are called therapeutic visits. What that means is that the targeted parent will be seeing the child or children in the presence of a psychologist or a social worker. It's humiliating, but it's something which is very useful for a few reasons. First of all, in situations that work out better, the mental health professional can actually intervene and work on making the relationship between the targeted parent and the children better. At the very least, what it will do is provide the court with a neutral point of view as to how the targeted parent is as a parent. So if the targeted parent is going to court and saying the targeted parent is abusive, the targeted parent is incompetent, then the report from the therapeutic supervisor is likely to provide a better outlook to the court as to how the targeted parent actually is. In many cases, there will also be what's called a custody evaluation or a forensic evaluation, where a psychologist will be appointed to interview the parents, to interview the children, to see the parents with the children, and also interview what are called collateral contacts, like the pediatrician and the child's teacher. What that will do is provide the court with a very detailed outlook as to what the family dynamics are. Now, in many cases, the forensic evaluation will help the case to settle, meaning come to an agreement. In many cases, what that will mean is that whereas the targeting parent sought for the targeted parent to have less time with the children, the targeted parent will actually get more time. So, why does that happen? Let's say the forensic evaluation comes back and it shows that um, the targeted parent is the victim of parental alienation, where it'll show that what the targeting parent is saying is not true, that the targeted parent is not abusive, that the targeted parent is not incompetent. So in those cases, the targeting parent will fear losing custody and will often agree to a settlement where the targeted parent actually gets more time with the children. At the very least, what it can show is that the targeting parent cannot prove the false allegations, and that will lead to settlement of the case. Now, let's say the case absolutely cannot settle, that there is no agreement to be had between the targeting parent and the targeting parent, then the case will go to trial. And very often, what is very useful for the targeted parent is to have their own expert, a mental health professional that has expertise in parental alienation to provide expert testimony to the court. Now, unfortunately, these cases take a long time to get to trial, and that unfortunately can lead to the targeting parent having a lot of time to make the relationship between the targeted parent and the children a lot worse. So, what should the targeted parent do in the meantime? First of all, get the mental health expert, so that this way the expert will be ready in case the case has to go to trial. Additionally, it's often very useful to get coaching from a mental health professional about what to do to try to make the relationship as good as possible in the meantime with the children. It is also very important for the child or children to get therapy with a therapist that is knowledgeable about parental alienation. Now, the courts will almost always say the children need therapy. However, the therapy can actually be counterproductive if the therapist is not knowledgeable about parental alienation. So, why is that? A lot of therapists will just take the child's lead, follow the child's lead. And it's very common that the children will come to the therapist and effectively say, "I'm being traumatized by the targeted parent." And what the therapist will end up doing is validating what the targeting parent is putting in the child's head. So that's why it's very important that the therapist be knowledgeable about parental alienation. So, what else should the targeted parent do? First of all, whatever the targeted parent does, that parent should not speak negatively about the targeting parent to the children. And that is something that is often very challenging for targeted parents. However, um, while the targeted parents often hope that the children will take their statements at face value. Oh, your mother or your father just doesn't want us to be together. What that will do is validate what the targeting parent is saying to the children. So, for example, let's say that the children come to the targeted parent and say, "Oh, I heard that you abused me as a baby." What the targeted parent might do instinctively is, What's your mother or father saying to you?" So, what the child will do then is go back to the other parent and say, "Oh, well, mom or dad yelled at me and said that you were lying." The targeting parent will then say, "You see, I told you that your mother or father was very aggressive." Instead, what the targeted parent should do is say, "Oh, you heard that I abused you as a baby? I'm sorry that you had to hear that. That must have made you very sad." That's not true. Also, it's very important to empathize with the child or children. So, for example, let's say that the targeted parent is really into football and loves to play football with the child. What the targeting parent might say is, "Oh, football is bad. Football is dangerous." And if the child comes back to the targeted parent and says, "Oh, I don't want to play football anymore," what the targeted parent should do is say, "Oh, well, what do you want to play?" And play whatever it is the child wants to play. I know it's not fair, but you can't really think about what's fair. Should think about what's practical, because in the end, if you end up with a bad relationship with your child or children, it will not be soothing to you that you really fought hard for what was fair. If you are going through parental alienation right now, please feel free to call our office, 347-642-0376. 347-642-0376. You can also contact us via our website, www.nivenlaw.com, www.nivinlaw.com. The first 30 minutes are always free. We look forward to helping you out.